Talk about the Indiana Fever more specifically. Now, all three of these entities have responded to the allegation. Erica Wheeler, Kelsey Mitchell, and Caitlin Clark.
The Indiana Fever are at the center of a storm. 3 names, 1 controversy: Erica Wheeler, Kelsey Mitchell, and Caitlin Clark. What started as a simple post-game comment has spiraled into a league-wide debate about racism, professionalism, and fan behavior. Allegations are flying, players are speaking out, and the WNBA is divided like never before. But here's the thing, Clark and Mitchell just dropped statements that completely flipped the entire narrative on its head. No one saw this coming, and the reaction across the league has been absolutely explosive. This isn't just about basketball anymore, it's about loyalty, truth, and how 2 players are rewriting the rulebook for what it means to handle pressure in the spotlight.
The allegations made by WNBA players that Indiana Fever fans are vicious, racist. Now, all 3 of these entities have responded to the allegation. They're just launching racial slurs all over the... not actually recorded or anything anywhere.
And yes, getting booed at an away stadium or an away arena is something that happens in sports.
People happen to have cell phones with audio devices that can record.
So here's how this whole thing exploded. Everything started when Alyssa Thomas made a bold claim after a road game, accusing a section of Indiana Fever fans of shouting racial slurs during the matchup. That one sentence sent shockwaves across the WNBA community. Reporters jumped on it, social media lit up, and within hours, people were demanding answers. But then, something strange happened. No one could find any video or audio proof of what she was talking about. Not a single clip, not a single fan recording, nothing. And that's when the confusion turned into chaos. Fans were defending themselves, journalists were digging for evidence, and rival players started choosing sides without even knowing what really happened. Suddenly, the Indiana Fever, one of the most talked about teams this season, found themselves in the middle of a controversy they never asked for. And at the center of it all stood 2 women, Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, forced to respond to accusations that could easily tear their fan base apart.
Is that the norm? Is that enough for now multiple players to just be calling a fan base, just label them? Seems like that could happen too, but I guess not. I guess that's not possible.
Yeah, it's definitely upsetting. I don't think nobody in our league should be facing any sort of racism, hurtful, disrespectful.
When reporters cornered Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell for a reaction, everyone expected tension or maybe even silence, but what they said caught everyone completely off guard. Clark, calm and composed as ever, didn't dodge the question. She said, "No one in our league should be facing any kind of racism." But instead of fueling outrage, she shifted the focus to something far bigger: the unity and positivity inside the WNBA. She reminded everyone that for every troll hiding online, there are thousands of real fans who love the game and show up to support it. That's the kind of grace you don't often see from rookies dealing with controversy. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell stood right beside her, backing up Clark's words with poise and strength. She made it clear that the Fever organization doesn't tolerate any form of disrespect, but she also emphasized something powerful: players can't control everything fans say, only how they represent their team and their values. Together, their statements flipped the script. Instead of dividing people, they brought a sense of calm, turning what could have been a PR disaster into a defining moment of leadership. And as their words spread across social media, people started realizing maybe this wasn't just about what happened in the stands. Maybe it was about how stars like Clark and Mitchell were changing the way the entire league handles pressure.
But there are a lot of really good fans, whether they've been fans for 20 plus years or whether they're new fans in our league. You know, those aren't fans, those are trolls, and it's a real disservice to the people in our league, the organization. I think continuing to uplift this league in a very positive light is the best thing that we can do, because
the moment Clark and Mitchell's comments hit the air, the entire internet erupted. Fans, journalists, even former players jumped in, and suddenly everyone had an opinion. Some praised them for showing maturity and refusing to add fuel to the fire, saying they were setting a new standard for professionalism in the WNBA. Others, though, accused them of deflecting the issue, claiming they were trying to protect their team's image instead of confronting the problem directly. Twitter threads exploded, talk shows debated it nonstop, and hashtags like #StandWithClark and #RespectMitchell started trending overnight. But the truth is, their responses did something that no one expected. They exposed a deeper divide between old-school fans and the new wave of supporters drawn in by Caitlin Clark's rise. The traditional fans wanted things to stay quiet and respectful, while the newer audience wanted transparency and confrontation. And in the middle of it all, Clark stood unfazed, continuing to play like nothing had happened, while Mitchell used every interview as a chance to remind people that basketball, not drama, is what defines their team. What's crazy is that the more they focused on the game, the more people started tuning in. Viewership went up, ticket sales spiked, and suddenly the Indiana Fever weren't just a team caught in controversy, they were leading a movement about how athletes can rise above chaos without saying a single negative word.
So many great players, there's so many great teams, there are so many positive storylines that can be written and celebrated. And
I was just even looking to see what like the big WNBA people, these like legacy fans that, you know, hate all the new fans. I genuinely think that there's going to be some responses being like, oh, she's trying to deflect the topic off the real thing. She's trying to focus on basketball and this is bigger than basketball.
For me, that's why I became a fan of this league, is these people were my idols. I grew up wanting to be like them, so.
As the noise outside the arena grew louder, something incredible started happening inside it. Clark and Mitchell began to play their best basketball of the entire season. It was as if every headline, every negative comment, every piece of drama became fuel for their fire. The chemistry between them was unreal. Clark's court vision, her ability to anticipate plays before they even unfolded, perfectly synced with Mitchell's killer instinct and scoring touch. Game after game, they started dismantling teams that were supposed to crush them. Reporters expected distraction, but what they saw was dominance, fast breaks, laser passes, deep threes, and a level of teamwork that screamed unity. Fans who once doubted them were now standing on their feet, realizing this wasn't just a story about controversy, it was a story about resilience. When Clark launched a pass from half court that landed flawlessly in Mitchell's hands for a behind-the-back layup, it wasn't just a highlight, it was a statement. It said, "We're not here to talk, we're here to win." That play went viral, millions watched it, and suddenly the same people calling the Fever a distraction were calling them contenders. The tension that once surrounded their names had turned into momentum, and every game felt like a message to the league. No matter what's said off the court, these two are rewriting the narrative with every possession.
We enter in Kelsey Mitchell and Erica Wheeler. And man, their answers are really good, really well thought out, and really professional. People are coming after them right now over this answer. People are livid.
Behind the scenes, the Indiana Fever were evolving faster than anyone expected. What started as a young roster finding its rhythm suddenly became a tightly connected family with a shared purpose. Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell weren't just leading by performance, they were shaping a culture. Coaches talked about how their locker room energy changed, how practices became more intense, how every player began to hold themselves accountable. Clark brought that relentless drive from her college days, while Mitchell, with her veteran calm, balanced the emotion with focus. Together, they created something powerful, a system built on trust, discipline, and respect. Erica Wheeler, the team's emotional anchor, backed them up every step of the way, saying publicly that the Fever were blocking out distractions and choosing professionalism over drama. That kind of message spread fast, and soon the entire organization was echoing the same tone: control what you can control, ignore the noise, and let the results speak for themselves. Sponsors started taking notice, the fan base began growing again, and suddenly, the Fever were no longer the underdogs. They were the model of composure in chaos. The same controversy that could have torn them apart had instead united them. And in a league often defined by off-court tension, Clark and Mitchell proved that leadership isn't about who yells the loudest, it's about who stays calm when the whole world wants you to break.
Let's listen.
The time after the break, it got better. So the future is very bright for those two.
I think that for us, we err on the side of professionalism in a lot of different ways, and we can only control what's in our organization, within our people.
I mean, we can't control what someone else says. Like, for the more like, no matter what color you are, whatever you carry or possess, I think for us, we focus on the basketball part.
By this point, it wasn't just the Fever who were changing Clark, and Mitchell's influence was spilling across the entire WNBA. Other players started to take notice of how they were handling the chaos, staying composed in interviews, refusing to take bait from the media, and redirecting conversations back to basketball and positivity. Suddenly, teams that were used to drama and confrontation started mirroring that same professionalism. Even veteran analysts who once criticized the new generation began admitting that Clark and Mitchell were doing something rare. They were redefining the standard of how a modern athlete carries themselves. And the numbers backed it up. Ratings soared, merchandise sales skyrocketed, and the Fever became one of the league's biggest stories, not because of controversy, but because of how gracefully they overcame it. Sports journalists started using words like transformational and game-changing, pointing out that this might be the moment that pushes the WNBA into a new era. But what makes it even more impressive is that Clark and Mitchell didn't plan any of this. They weren't chasing headlines or trying to look like heroes. They were just doing what great leaders do, setting the tone with their actions and letting the results speak louder than the rumors. Their chemistry, their maturity, and their focus created something the league desperately needed: a reminder that real power in sports comes not from outrage, but from composure.
0.54 million viewers tune in for Caitlin Clark, and then Diana Taurasi retires, and Caitlin Clark is a generational talent. It's who they want to watch, and that's all there is to it. Diana Taurasi retires, and not even half that tuned in. Sorry about your luck. Not interested.
Like, we don't condone any of those things. Like, for the more, eyes been on us since C got drafted.
What happened next felt almost unbelievable. The same fans who were once divided suddenly started uniting behind the Fever. Everywhere you looked, people were wearing Clark and Mitchell jerseys, posting clips of their teamwork, and celebrating the positive energy they brought to every game. The negativity that had dominated headlines just weeks earlier began to fade, replaced by an outpouring of support and admiration. New fans, old fans, even critics couldn't deny what was happening. The Fever weren't just playing basketball anymore. They were building something that felt bigger, almost cultural. Entire sections of the arena started chanting their names. Young girls in the stands held up signs saying, "Clark and Mitchell equals class." And the conversation online shifted completely. Instead of focusing on alleged racism or drama, fans were now talking about teamwork, leadership, and respect. What's crazy is that this shift didn't come from a marketing campaign, it came from authenticity. Clark's humility and Mitchell's confidence created a perfect balance that people could feel. They turned hate into harmony, criticism into community, and rivalry into respect. The media, which once thrived on conflict, started acknowledging it too, calling their chemistry a masterclass in professionalism. And just like that, two players who were supposed to be at the center of controversy became the faces of everything good about the WNBA: resilience, growth, and unity. By the time the regular season wrapped up, it was clear that Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell had done far more than win games. They had rewritten what it means to lead in the WNBA. What started as a messy controversy about fan behavior had turned into one of the most powerful culture shifts in league history. Every interview, every post-game moment, every play on the court showed exactly why these two belong in the conversation with the greatest duos the sport has ever seen. Clark's precision and composure, combined with Mitchell's fire and fearlessness, gave the Fever an identity rooted in strength, unity, and purpose. Analysts compared them to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, but with a twist. They weren't just splashing threes, they were changing perceptions. They proved that you can rise above hate, silence chaos with grace, and still dominate the game you love. Their leadership became contagious, inspiring younger players across the league to handle adversity with the same quiet confidence. Even rival coaches began admitting that what Clark and Mitchell built in Indiana could become the blueprint for the future of women's basketball, a mix of raw talent, emotional intelligence, and relentless discipline. And as the spotlight grew brighter, they never lost focus. While others argued online, they kept grinding, showing the world that success isn't about clapping back, it's about showing up. What makes their story so incredible is that it's not just a comeback, it's a revolution. They took a season that could have been remembered for division and turned it into a masterclass in resilience, teamwork, and grace under pressure. In the end, Clark and Kelsey Mitchell didn't just survive the controversy, they transcended it. They showed the world that even when the noise gets deafening, real leaders stay grounded, focused, and united. What began as a story about accusations and division became something far greater, a movement about grace, professionalism, and the power of choosing composure over chaos. Every time they stepped onto the court, they reminded fans why the WNBA is special, why this league deserves respect, and why women's basketball is on the rise like never before. Their journey wasn't just about stats or highlight reels, it was about setting an example for every young athlete watching, proving that you can respond to hate with class, to pressure with poise, and to doubt with dominance. And maybe that's the biggest victory of all. Because when the season ends and the headlines fade, people won't just remember the controversy, they'll remember how two players stood tall, lifted their team, and turned a storm into a statement. The Indiana Fever didn't just win games this year, they won hearts, respect, and a permanent place in the story of how the WNBA changed forever.